Alright, guys, welcome back to the show. This is Hellmouth Hotline. I'm your host, Rodney Stewart, and we're getting into a little chat about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And this is the season 4 episode, Wild at Heart. Probably in this series, this is probably the weakest one so far. This is a story about Oz and the whole werewolf thing. And it brings the whole Veruca thing to a head, really, in this episode. At the beginning, Buffy, she's, of course, out on patrol, chasing vampires. Well, vampires chasing her, which she kills in short order. And as the camera pulls back, we see Spike has turned up again, lurking in the shadows, and he's the big bad's back, blah, 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 usual malarkey out of him. Then he's tased by these soldiers that have been running about the campus the whole way through this series, and we still haven't found out who the hell they are, even though at this point I do know who they are. And just going by the episode titles, we find out in the next episode exactly who they are. So it's about damn time too. This is episode 6 in the run, and they've dragged it out for too long to bring these guys into it, in my humble opinion. But for me, thinking back on it, like, it's been that long since I watched the series. I kind of know what happens. I just can't remember all the ins and outs of how they get there. But I do recall the last time I watched this series, it didn't hit me really as well as some of the previous series and the run of Buffy. That whole storyline with the initiative was a good idea, but, could have been better, in my humble opinion. But we'll get to that in due course. So that's it. That's all we see of Spike at the beginning of the episode. He doesn't even make it as far as the opening credits of the show. He's tased and taken away by these guys. At the Bronze, they're all hanging out and they're talking about college and what they're doing with themselves, and Giles actually turns up to join them at the Bronze for a change. So he's really at a loose end in this episode. He doesn't know what the hell to do with himself now that he's not a watcher. This girl Veruca, she's up singing with her band. Shy is the name of the band, and they're all sort of mesmerised by her singing, and that kind of distresses Willow. She's not into her at all, because she's realising that there's some sort of connection between this girl and Oz. It's not going down well at all. The next morning, they wake up in bed together, Willow and Oz does, and they're talking about how they'll be apart for 3 nights, because it's coming up to the full moon. Oz is going to have to keep himself locked up, and Willow can't be there that night. She wants to go to a sort of like a witches sort of a group sort of thing, and they're meeting on these 3 nights, so he's going to have to look after himself for a change. And we cut over to the classroom. Buffy gets a good grade on her paper for a change, better than Willow. She actually gets jealous of her, and Professor Walsh asks her to lead a discussion group on the topic in the next class. And Willow is excited for Buffy, but she's envious at the same time. Buffy's like, oh crap, why the hell can't there be a better reward, like a tasty little cookie or something to get? We then see Veruca and Oz meeting each other at lunch, and she invites him to sit down. He does. There's room for Willow there. She sits down and they start talking about amps, and she's lost in what they're talking about. They're talking about music amplifiers, all that sort of stuff. Oz leaves, and Veruca leaves shortly after, leaving Willow on her own just as Buffy arrives. And she's trying to say to her, Willow, don't be worrying about Oz, he's under you and nobody else. But that night, as he's locking himself up in the cage in the crypt, the door isn't secure enough and he manages to break free. We cut over to the campus and Professor Walsh is leaving school, and she's heading off home, and Oz jumps out of the bushes at her in werewolf form. Just then, another werewolf appears, and while Professor Walsh runs and hides, the two werewolves start fighting with each other. Oz wakes up the next morning in the middle of the forest to see that the other werewolf is indeed Veruca. So we knew this was sort of coming. If you know the sort of background of werewolves and the history of pop culture and whatnot, it's no shock that this is the case here, because there was that connection between the two of them. Even from the first couple of episodes, maybe even episode 1 probably in the series, you seen her on the campus, and her and Oz would exchange looks as if there was something there, more or less. Yeah, where are we at now? I'm lost my place in my notes again. Yeah, this girl Veruca is a werewolf too, so they go to the laundry room to try and find some clothes, and Veruca starts to appeal to the animal side of Oz, and we're meant to be together, all this sort of stuff. But Oz is doing his best to shoot her down, stay away from her, but there's a strong animal connection there. Willow turns up at Oz's place, and instead of being welcomed with open arms, he's pretty much closed off, and she leaves, and this is just bringing her more into the mindset that there's something wrong here. Buffy goes to Giles' house, and she informs him that after talking to Professor Walsh in the classroom, Walsh is talking about these two big dogs that were chasing her the night before. So Buffy puts 2 and 2 together, full moon, big dogs, could it be werewolves? So she goes, tells Giles about 2 werewolves been spotted on the campus, and she then heads off to the crypt where Oz has his cage, and he's welding a new door onto it, and she asks him, did he get out? Then mentions another werewolf, but he tells her it did, but says he didn't remember anything about what happened. Was there any reports of people getting killed and whatnot? So we cut back over to Willow, who's looking for a bit of a male perspective in her dilemma. She asks Xander about Oz, and he tells her that the reason he's off of her is probably because he can sense her uneasiness. If you're going to be pouting and getting on, he's not going to be, and doing the dirty with you. It's just like, there's sometimes men just aren't in it for sex, that sort of thing. But he suggests, go talk to him, work it out, sort everything out, get it straight, and then just get on each other again, more or less. So Oz is then, he's arranging for Veruca to meet him in the crypt that night. He wants her to lock herself up in the cage with him so she can't hurt anyone. She refuses, just saying, we are what we are, why the hell would we lock ourselves up? And she refuses, we should be running free, all this sort of stuff. But eventually Oz loses the fight against his feelings. He drags her into the cage, and they start kissing just as they transform into werewolves. And of course, the next morning Willow arrives, and she sees Oz and Veruca curled up around a stitch of clothes in either one of them. They've done the dirty all night long. Again, 2 nights in a row, dirty hellions. So Oz gets dressed, orders Veruca out. He's angry. He tries to explain things to Willow, but she doesn't want to hear anything, and she accuses him of choosing a solution that involved him and her getting locked up together rather than telling someone what was happening. So Oz tells her he knows how it feels. She asks, was it supposed to be payback? Of course, this is her harkening back to what she did with Xander way back in season 3, was it? No. Yeah, I think season 3. She cheated on Oz with Xander. So, from a moral standpoint, at this. Like, they're in a relationship, of course, neither one of them should be cheating. But she did the dirty first, so she's just like, is this payback for what I did in you? And I'm just like, catch yourself on, just, again, if you're in a relationship with you, neither one of you should be cheating. But if she's going to take the moral high ground here, she hasn't got a leg to stand on. She's done exactly the same thing before now. So it is what it is. He tells her it isn't, but and it really isn't. It's the werewolf. It's the animal side of his nature. And Willow questions whether he wanted Verka in an animal way before he knew she was a werewolf, and Oz remains silent. At that point, Willow runs out crying. As she's walking home, she walks out in front of an oncoming car. Buffy sees this about to happen, but she's too far away to save her. But Riley happens to be there, and he gets her. Riley then tells Willow that he doesn't know what's happened, but it's not worth hurting herself over. Riley suggests that Buffy, you should take her home. Back at the dorm, Willow tells the whole story to Buffy, but before she leaves to find Verka, Willow tells Buffy tells Willow that Riley was right, and that she shouldn't hurt herself, and she should put the blame where it belongs, leaving Willow on her own then. She's determined to go and take care of Verka herself as the Slayer. Willow thinks to herself about the statement that Buffy just came out with about putting the blame where it belongs, and she goes to a trunk in the room that's full of magical witchy stuff and ingredients. Back at Oz's room, Buffy asks him where Verka is. He's been trying to track her down as well. He's not sure where she's at, but he points out that he's pretty sure he can follow her scent at this point. So when Oz tries to explain what happened, Buffy says it might be a good time for your trademark stoicism. Keep your trap shut. Don't want to hear it. We're here to sort out a problem. I'm not getting caught up in this nonsense. Yeah. Using Oz's senses to lead the way, Buffy and Oz find Verka's clothes in the forest. And he's kind of like, that might have been from the other night when she changed into a werewolf. But Buffy's like, or it could be a diversion. And they work out that Verka is going to go after Willow. And they're rushing back to the college. But Buffy runs into one of these commando guys. Two of them briefly scuffle. But Buffy throws him out of the way, grabs the tranquilizer gun, and leaves. Willow, she's in one of the labs in the college. She's conjuring a spell. Deceitful hearts be broken. She's just going to put the whammy onto Verka and probably Oz as well. She takes a picture of Oz, puts it in the spell pot, but she can't bring herself to complete it. Everything is levitating, suddenly smashes down. She's got all this stuff floating in the air and whatnot. She can't go through with the spell. And she turns around and Verka's there. She says, I thought for a minute you were actually going to play dirty. But she knows that Willow's too weak. She hasn't got the teeth for it to finish the spell. Verka locks the lab door, tells Willow she's going to kill her when the sun goes down, and that way Willow can't stand between her and Oz anymore. But just in time, of course, Oz turns up. They transform into werewolves. He's telling her not to be hurting Willow. Verka refuses, believing Willow is stopping Oz from fully embracing his wolf side. She's keeping you down, you need to get rid of her, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. We're animals at heart, after all. Oz agrees, and that they're animals, and they kill, and at this point, the two of them fight each other. Still not completely changed, though. They go sort of half transformation. They've got a bit of a vocal back and forth, but then they go full werewolf. And, continue the fight. To Oz kills Verka by ripping her throat out, and he then turns his attention to Willow, and he's about to attack her as well. Just then, Buffy stops him at the last second and throws him to the corner and shoots him with a tranquilizer dart. And Willow's bawling her eyes out again, and Buffy's trying to comfort her. So the next day, Buffy, she's telling Giles about the commando that she come across while searching Verka. And she says, I came across a few of these guys on Halloween night, but I just thought they were in costume. And she says that because of him, bumping on them in this episode, she was almost too late to stop Oz from killing Verka and almost stopping him from killing Willow as well. It might have ended up really badly, and I kind of think that Willow would have preferred it if I had let him kill her. But Giles is like, you know what? Buffy says that she seems to be so hurt that she can't even form words at the minute, and Giles is like, you've been through it as well, and you really got, you managed to get through it. But Buffy's just like, I hope she doesn't take my experience to heart. Like, I had to run away and go to hell before I worked myself out. But she's like, I don't know how Willow and Oz are going to get through this. So at the end of the episode, Willow finds Oz in the room. He's packing his stuff, and at this point, he's just not sure where he ends and the werewolf starts. And he's leaving until he can figure it out. And he reckons that for the good of Willow and everybody else, he just shouldn't be there anymore. And he gives her a hug and leaves Willow crying alone in his dorm. He gets out, gets into his van, starts up and drives off, and that's, I think, to the best of my memory, that's probably the last time we ever see Oz in the show. I can't recall at this point if he ever comes back. But it is what it is. It is the little werewolf episode, and the weakest point of the series so far to this point, at least in this run anyway. You're always going to come across a weak episode here and there, but this one here, for me, wasn't great. But it had its high moments. Like, I do have to say, the girl that played Veruca was actually very, very good in this episode. And it might have been interesting to continue that storyline on a wee bit further than actually stopping it dead in this episode by getting rid of her. It might have been an interesting dynamic for a few episodes to keep her in there along with Oz, but now at this point she's dead and Oz is gone. So yeah, is what it is. And that is my little review of Wild at Heart. So that's going to do it, guys. If you want to rate and review the show, please feel free to do that. Share it along. Do all good social media stuff. If you want to get in contact with me and tell me that I'm the worst podcaster on the face of the planet, you're very welcome to do so at the email hellmouthhotline@gmail.com. And that's it for me for this episode. So whatever you're doing, guys, stay safe, and I'll talk to you next time. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you so much for listening.